guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. This sweet, beautiful face on the screen is 5-year-old Izabella Loving. Sadly, she'll never see a day past being a 5-year-old. Her so-called mother and father, Andrea and Nicholas Loving, they murdered her back in early April of this year. So this case has been ongoing since April 3rd, and the actual murder charges for Andrea just happened last week. So this investigation has been really going with Nevada's Washoe County Sheriff's Office and the District Attorney's Office, and they are making sure to get justice for Izabella. So after she died, after 5-year-old Izabella took her last breath, her parents, Nicholas and Andrea, well, they decided to wait almost 5 hours to call 911. This is according to the Sheriff's Office arrest report and the Declaration of Probable Cause. Almost 5 hours before they decided to call for help. Okay? It's of note that the couple recently had a Child Protective Services case against them closed. So that's something we have to remember. And yes, we hear about these all the time. Yeah, unfortunately. Mom would later admit that she asked the other two siblings, because there was a total of 3 kids in this family, Izabella, and she had 2 siblings. She told them to lie to Child Protective Services. Yeah. Now, the story changed a number of times when law enforcement investigators asked the parents what exactly happened to their daughter. And we all know that the truth doesn't change. If your story continues to change, it's a lie. And these parents were lying from the get-go. Eventually, Nicholas, dad, in air quotes, of course, stated that they discovered Izabella was not breathing just after 2 a.m., and then he began CPR. Now, I have to question if he actually did a damn thing, but this is what he told law enforcement when he did admit that she stopped breathing just after 2 a.m. So instead of calling for help, Nicholas consoled his panicking wife, Andrea. So they decided not to call for help, and instead they had this long conversation with each other, which included even Nicholas telling his wife, Andrea, well, maybe we should bury her and run off. Yeah, because that's what innocent people do, right? If your child just dies, right? But that's because sweet Izabella, she was abused. She was abused since at least 2022. It wasn't until, again, like I said, about 4 hours later that the call was made to 911. At 6:55 a.m., the county emergency dispatch was contacted, and they told them that their daughter was unresponsive and not breathing, and they gave their address, 17391 Crystal Canyon Boulevard. In addition to the sheriff's office, Truckee Meadows Fire and REMSA responded to the scene, where sadly Izabella was pronounced deceased at 7:22 a.m. The emergency personnel they found that Izabella had a lot of signs of trauma, including oral trauma and apparent bruising on her face, pelvis, hips, and insides of both biceps and on her genitals. There were multiple bruises, cuts, scrapes to her arms, legs, torso, and face, which included a black eye and a gash over her other eye. There were 10 separate injuries visible on her face. This is a 5-year-old. A 5-year-old. Izabella's parents, they claimed that she had been hit on the head with a plastic baseball bat and another toy by one of her siblings. And they also told them that she had fallen many times. All completely believable by the investigators and medical personnel, I'm sure. As an explanation for the bruises on her biceps, well, Nicholas said that Izabella had recently fallen out of his truck. He said that he had to grab her arm to save her. Yeah. He also detailed 2 other recent falls out of vehicles and upstairs in addition to other incidents. A 5-year-old. Preceding Izabella's death, she had also been coughing up blood and mucus for at least 10 days. The night before, Nicholas took her temperature, which he claimed was 96 or 97 degrees. He said he gave her a bath, and she seemed fine. Afterward, he put her to bed, which this bed that she was put to bed in every night, it was a 5x5 box with a lock on it. She was put to sleep in a locked box, while her other 2 siblings had actual beds as well as her parents. She was made to sleep in a box. Nicholas admitted that they would sometimes keep Izabella in a small makeshift cubby located on the scene by the detectives later on, which is the approximately 5x5 box in the girls' room. He admitted that he had locked her in there on one occasion, but that Andrea mostly put Izabella inside of it. So we can see that this blame game was already happening. Oh, Nicholas did it. No, Andrea did it. No, Nicholas did it. Andrea did it. At this point, it doesn't really matter, because thankfully, at this point, as I record this, they're both charged with her death. The report stated the room was shared by the 3 girls, the 3 siblings, and it was obvious that the other 2 girls had the nice queen-sized beds, which I stated before, while Izabella slept on a crib-sized mattress on the floor when she wasn't in this locked box. Yeah. They were woken up around midnight by another child telling them that Izabella was vomiting. Then Izabella was checked on, according to the reports. After that, Izabella was found deceased inside the tiny makeshift cubby. Andrea claimed, she told detectives, that Nicholas wouldn't let her call 911. And of course, they gave conflicting accounts, blaming each other for not calling 911 right away. And Andrea stated that instead Nicholas wanted to pack up their other kids. Now the kids' ages 4, 7, and 10, and run, bury the body in the backyard, flee to his parents in Virginia, or leave the body and flee. You think he knows he's guilty? Yeah. Andrea, well, she told detectives that they couldn't leave the body because it would rot. After all the abuse and disgusting things they did to keep food away from her, abuse her, make her life a living hell, she's worried that her now deceased daughter, well, her body's going to rot. Yeah. Ultimately, they decided to remove Izabella from the cubby, drag her and her bed across the room, and of course they staged things because if they're going to call 911, they have to make it look good. And they went with the story of them finding her around 7 a.m. and came up with the explanation of her injuries, and being that she fell multiple times or was hit with random toys. In addition, they continue to blame each other for abusing Izabella. Again, their last name is such the opposite of Loving. Nicholas Loving denied ever hitting, spanking, shoving, or kicking his 5-year-old daughter during his interview, and he had no explanation for the apparent severe injuries, explaining that he works so much and he's hardly ever home. Over time, he told detectives at least 2 different versions of incidents. In the first version, he described that his daughter hit her face on the asphalt, and then in another version, he said she put her hands down and broke her fall, not hitting her in the face. And during that same interview, Nicholas ended up admitting that he and Andrea actually discovered Izabella not breathing at 2 a.m. on the day of her death, but they both decided not to call for help for roughly 5 hours, claiming that he was consoling Andrea. Yeah. Andrea told detectives during the interview that she recently saw Nicholas kick the 5-year-old in the genitals, and she witnessed him drag her by the collar or hooded sweatshirt up the stairs. And at the end of that interview, she told the authorities, "I should go to jail for not helping her, and Nick should go to jail for killing her." The daughters were also interviewed, and they told detectives that they were woken up around midnight and forced to go downstairs. They were told by their dad that their sister had died and that they might be going on a trip. Yeah. I can't imagine what those 2 girls thought of what happened to their little sister. I really, really can't.
A Nevada mother is now accused of murdering her 5-year-old daughter, a child that investigators say showed signs of severe, long-term abuse and neglect before she died. Prosecutors in Washoe County, Nevada have filed an expanded first-degree murder charge against Andrea Loving in connection with the death of Izabella Loving, who was found unresponsive inside of her home near Reno earlier this year. That Izabella died after her father, so we're talking about Nicholas Loving, we'll focus more on him in a second, that he killed Izabella by, quote, hitting and or kicking and or dragging and or whipping and or otherwise striking the victim and or by shoving the victim's head against a wall. Investigators say this little girl had extensive injuries, signs of malnutrition, medical neglect, and until now, only Isabella's father had faced that murder charge, but that has changed. We now have video of Andrea Loving taken into custody on that upgraded charge. This is courtesy of Reno News 4, and prosecutors say that the new evidence led them to expand the case.
So obviously this is Law and Crime, sidebar with Jesse Weber. As he stated, Mom, Andrea, thank God she's now also charged with her murder. Her amended charges now include that first-degree murder charge, and she has been accused of abating and aiding her husband Nicholas, including conspiring with him to cover up and conceal Isabella's physical injuries. Prosecutors also allege that she instructed 2 other children to tell police that Isabella's injuries were caused by another minor child. The sheriff's office has stated that Izabella was only fed a piece of bread each day for her daily nutrition. So Andrea, her mom, only gave this 5-year-old a piece of bread to eat every day. I can't even imagine. Her physical state, her health was just horrific beyond being physically abused, emotionally abused, mentally abused. Her condition was just, it was awful. And Andrea's Google search history, well, that also kicks her in the ass. And these these criminals just never learn, do they? They just search Google, and I guess thank God they're that stupid, because it just comes right back to bite them on the ass. Her internet searches included signs my child is dying, dark blood on boil when popping, how long can you go without food, kidneys failing, and my 5-year-old is peeing blood. And that's just a few of her internet searches. Yeah. Thank God that she is now also behind bars, being charged with this first degree murder as well. Both Andrea and Nicholas, they deserve to rot in a hole, as far as I'm concerned. Anyone who hurts a child, and I cannot imagine hurting this sweet, sweet baby on the screen. Who can hurt their own child? Obviously, we have some really awful monsters in this world. And every single day it feels like I wake up and I hear about another one. And you gotta wonder, when does it stop? How can we protect these babies? If Child Protective Services is failing them, what can we do? And yes, they are failing them because they just closed the case. So, unfortunately, this is another failure on the behalf of Child Protective Services. So that's just some of the basics. Okay, this is just some of the basics of what happened to 5-year-old Izabella. There's a lot more I can go into, and I just dived into it just briefly today to do this video. If you guys would like me to continue to cover Izabella's case and go back from the start, from April, and of course it's before April, sadly, that when this all happened, but when she was found deceased and when law enforcement finally got involved, please let me know. I would love to dive further into this case, and we can follow it here, because we all know that charges have already been put on both of these two parents, if you can call them that. But she deserves justice, and I know her community has been rallying around getting her justice, and they're also coming out against Child Protective Services, which I gotta say, I always love when they know that Child Protective Services, they screwed up, and the community is making sure that this is also brought out, because this is just happening almost in every case now. Yeah, it's almost as if when we hear of a abused child that's been murdered, like Izabella, to hear that Child Protective Services has had a case or has a case open on this child, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. It really doesn't. But again, you guys let me know, and I will definitely continue to cover this into 2026. But with that said, thank you for being here to hear a bit about Izabella, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. And most of all, stay safe.